Got to give the people, get the people what they want. All right, Bass, I'm here. What I need you to do, writing trig equations from graph. Copy that down and try to copy this graph down, please. So I want you to copy this graph down as well as you can. That's a -3 right there, which you should be able to figure out from this lovely screenshot that we have. All right, so cool. You did that. Now we're going to write the equation. Now, notice I picked some key points for you, so you should be able to tell. And we're going to label. I'd like you to go ahead on this graph, so directly on the graph that you've written, show me where you can see. So annotate it with the midline and with the amplitude, and show me where the 1 period is. Cool, so hopefully you did that, and you should have seen that right here is your midline. So my amplitude is both here and here. So I can see this as two spaces here and 2 spaces here. So that's my amp. It's my midline. And now in checking the period, I see, okay, it starts like this. It goes down. It goes up. It goes down. And right here is where I get right back. So that's where my period is. And notice that that is at 2 pi. So there's my period from there to there. All right? So hopefully you did that. Cool. So now we're going to write the equation, which should be pretty cool. I'm going to erase some of this just so you can see. That's not the eraser. Just so you can see this clearly. Okay. So we're thinking about my equation. And I know. First of all, I need to figure out, well, is this a sine or a cosine? Well, if here's 0, up here, actually, take that back. If here's my midline, right here, is this thing starting on the midline? And remember, sine starts, I want you to write this down, on the midline. Cosine starts above or below the midline. So I'm seeing this. I see this is my midline, and this is right on the midline. So this happens to be a sine curve. Now I need to figure out what is my A value. And my A value is the amplitude, which is 2. We don't have a B value in this case. And then we notice, well, how is this shifted? It should be at 0 is where my midline is, but it's shifted down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. So this is -6. The last thing that I need to think about here is, well, I don't know if it's positive or negative sine. Well, sine typically starts at the midline, goes up, goes down, comes back up. This sine starts at the midline and goes down, goes up, goes back down. So that means it must be negative, because this is what a typical sine, oh, that looks just bad. This is a typical sine curve right here. And this one did the opposite, so it was negative. So there we go. The equation of this line is y equals -2 sine of x minus 6, where you see your midline and you see your amplitude. Cool. One down. Why don't you write me now, with no help from me, why don't you write me the equation of this graph? First, annotate it. Annotate where is the midline, where is the amplitude at, and decide if it's sine or cosine. Then write the equation. All right, hopefully you just did all of that. So I'm looking here, and I'm seeing if this is 0, I'm looking like a midline is right here, right about 4. So midline is 4. My amplitude 5, 6, 7. My amplitude is 3 that way. 1, 2, 3 this way as well. So my amplitude is 3. And my period, let's see, it starts here, goes down, goes up, goes more up. And now I'm back to where I started. And that is at an x value of 2 pi. So the period is still 2 pi. Right, so my period goes from here to here. In between there is where the period is. Okay, I'm going to erase all of this. But hopefully you were just able to see it. Cool. All right, so let's write the equation. So first of all, I do like to have my midline in here. What was my midline at? 4. Because I like to look and see, well, where does it start? Well, it starts right here. And it's off the midline. That means this must be a cosine curve. Okay? My midline has shifted from 0 right here up to 4. So that's a plus 4. Because that's where the midline is. It's 4 up of where it would typically be at 0. And then my amplitude is 1. No, we got it. It's 3. So it's 3 cosine x plus 4. My only other question is this a positive cosine or a negative cosine? So I have to think, well, how does cosine typically start? Typical cosine starts up here, goes down, and gets back up. That's typical cosine. So in this case, it starts up, goes down, gets back up. So this is typical cosine as well, so this is positive. Here's my equation. All right, so that's just a little practice on that. Let's move over to the next thing. Draw the graph of the following equations now. Now we're going the other direction. Before I gave you the graph, you made the equation. Now I'm giving you the equation, you make the graph. Go ahead and draw this one for me. Cool. Hopefully you did that. I'm going to label this. I know that this has a period of 2 pi. I'm going to know that this has a midline of -2. I know it has an amplitude, of 3. Okay? So I know it's cosine, so it's going to be off the pole. Cosine is supposed to start up at top. So let me start, actually, if I'm doing this, I'm starting at my midline. So here's 0. Oh, I should use these. Here's 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's pi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's 2 pi. Works out nice and pretty. Where's my midline? My midline's at -2, so -1, -2. Here's my midline right here. And it's cosine, so it's going to be off the pole, but it's negative cosine, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3. It's going to start negative. It's going to start at the bottom. It's going to go 3 from my midline. Okay? And so at minimum, it's going to go here. At maximum, it's going to go up. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be between here and here from that midline. Okay? So now, I like to do this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's pi over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 3/2 pi. All right. So now we have all the stuff that we need. I also like to even look at the unit circle while I'm doing this. If I have a unit circle, here we go. I'm going to look at these main spots. Here's 0. Here's pi over 2. Here's pi. Here's 3/2 pi. Now notice how I use this unit circle to help me. Cosine is the distance from the pole. So when I'm at 0, my distance from the pole is 1. So I'm as far as I can be. I'm at the amplitude, 1, or in this case it'd be 3. So when I'm at 0, my distance from the pole is going to be -3. So I'm right here. When I'm at pi over 2 up here, I'm on the pole. So I'm on the pole, right? So my distance from the pole is 0. So I'm basically on the pole, I'm on the midline. So boom, my distance from the pole is 0. Now, when I'm at, this is not pi over 2, this is just pi. When I'm at pi degrees, my distance from the pole, I'm as far again as I can be from the pole in the other direction. So now I'm over here, I'm as far as I can be from my midline in the other direction. So at pi, I'm there. I'm coming around. When I'm at 3/2 pi, again, I am on the pole. If this is the pole, I'm no distance from the pole. My point is right on it. So again, at 3/2 pi, I'm back to the midline. And finally, when I get to 2 pi, which is the same as 0, or 2 pi, I'm back to my farthest distance from the pole. So my farthest distance from the midline, which is -3. So I get this cosine curve that goes boom. There is my cosine curve. So when we talk about distance from the pole, we're really talking about the distance from the midline, okay? So that's a big key. That's the cosine curve, and I have to do it using the unit circle. So hopefully you do it thinking about the unit circle as well. Okay? Let's try